Hey everybody, this video is a love letter to the use of optics on mediums. Sometimes, even when you think you are having a really shitty match, optics and good crew skills can actually mean you're having an excellent match without realizing it. And this turned out to be one of those instances. I didn't really get a chance to do much damage because my gun seemed to want to hit everything but what I was aiming at. But I was able to put down a hell of a lot of spotting damage for our Artie, who ended up having an excellent game. Things that aren't excellent, this game's replay system for a start. Anyway, I begin moving to the now customary central position for well, not central, but east and middle position for medium tanks. The 430 doesn't have particularly great gun depression, but what it does have is camouflage. It also actually does have pretty decent armor for a medium, so this is a good position for it. I can spot from here while tanking most incoming shots as long as I'm not too careless, which actually this match I was. And I can also, just fall back into this bush and basically disappear at will. Which is really handy because it means that these guys actually have to push up and spot me or wait for me to fire my gun before they can light me for the sniping tanks up on the hill. So I see a whole lot of shit coming here, and immediately I started flipping out. I really wanted Artie to drop bombs on those guys. They were in a perfect position to get hit. They were clustered together on top of each other almost. They weren't really moving much, and here we get to see RNG at work, making me miss easily hittable shots. Now granted, I did have, a fair bit of bloom when I was firing, but I mean, that tracer looked like it went right through the bat's turret. And if pubbies can snapshot and always hit, why can I not hit aimed shots at that distance, even if there is a bit of bloom because I'm traversing my turret? That was just a bad angle on the E75. The E75 has a really, really thick side armor on its turret, and so quite often if you have any angle at all against the E75's turret sides, you'll still bounce as if you're shooting at the front of it. As you can see, I also got an unlucky bounce off his cupola, but I do get a shot into the E100 there, who carelessly had his turret turned to the side. The enemy Artie seems not to be very effective. He certainly hasn't hit me yet. Meanwhile, our Artie knows to focus mid, and has actually been putting shots down range. He's done quite a bit of damage already. There goes another one. And in this match, 53-55 really was my guardian angel. If he hadn't been there supporting me, I would have been dead many times over. As you can see in chat, he says he's done about 3k damage already. It's only 3.5 minutes into the match. So that's a pretty monstrous game already for an Artie piece. I mean, most Artie players would be happy with that over the course of an entire match, let alone the first 3.5 minutes of it. I did take some damage there. The 4202 on hill got me while I was lit. And so I pulled back for a little while, both to get on spot and to give myself a little time to think. T28 is easy meat for me. The problem is he's got cover at the moment. Cover doesn't really bother our Artie though, who puts a nice big hit into him. At this point I decide to shift over to the right a little and try and get out of the render distance of the 4202 on the hill. Enemy 53-55 is now on my case. As you just saw, he very narrowly missed me there. The enemy M41 was a real pain in the arse this match. First he started plinking away at me, and then later on in the match he started taking shots at Marius as well. Might not look like much damage, you know, 150 damage in a tier 10 medium, oh boo-hoo, but it adds up very quickly, particularly given how fast the Bulldog flies. 251 isn't quite as clever as his American counterpart and drives straight out into the open, doesn't even fire his gun, and since I'm having bloom issues, I just leave Marius to deal with him. I can't even hit him at this distance. Really, I would have been happy if the 430 actually did not gain DPM, and if it gained standing accuracy instead, or better bloom. I would rather have maybe not T62 level gun handling, but passable gun handling than the higher DPM. But I suppose they felt they needed to make it more differentiated from the other Soviet mediums, and so they gave it atrocious gun handling in exchange for high DPM, which is bizarre because you would think that the Object 430 being an early developmental prototype that led to the T64, you would think it would have better on the move accuracy in game than the T62, for instance, but I guess not. There's the Bulldog. Of course, being so fast and so small, it is extremely hard for me to hit, especially given the lay of the land around here. The IS-3, much easier target. So I put a shot into the IS-3, start looking for one at the Bulldog. Of course, my shells go everywhere. That isn't the Bulldog. I was raging up a storm in TeamSpeak about my stupid gun. The Object 430 does have a very good gun, it just has very bad soft stats on it, so the gun doesn't like hitting things. Normally at the ranges I fight in the 430, I'm much closer to my enemies and so it's not an issue, but in this match I was trying to fire at long range while moving. Not fun. I ride right up here to try and get a shot to the IS-4. Unfortunately he notices me and turns his turret, so my shot bounces, his doesn't. Try to keep him lit here for a minute. I wasn't going to try and get another shot in there because it would have just given him another chance to shoot me. I just wanted to keep him lit that little bit longer and maybe force him into the open. Unfortunately, he does actually hit me again because I'm terrible at this game. So I back down onto my own side of the map, finally get a hit into that fucking Bulldog, who then gets blown up by the 704. The ST1 has run all the way back to the rails, he's not my problem anymore. I decide this position is no longer viable, and so I pull right back and decide to switch flanks. I must apologise for how incredibly shitty this replay is running. I'll have to see if I can do something about that before I record the next one. I think it's a perfect storm of I've got about 20 browser windows open, and also the existing replay bug, and as you can see, my brilliant driving nearly got me stuck in a crater. So there's not much I can do for this replay. It's going to be a bit shitty, but I suppose you guys will have to suffer through it. I think I'm probably the only person who actually bothers to try and get the stupid things to run smoothly anyway. Everyone else is just kind of resigned to how shitty the replay system is. I don't know if it's going to improve any once they finally do server-side replays. It remains to be seen. But I am excited for the prospect of being able to see other people's perspectives in my own replays. I really hope that they include that with the server-side ones. So, relying on the 430's good mobility and excellent camo, I then scoot down the road here. I don't think there's anything here except the Arties, so I feel pretty secure just driving down the road rather than trying to play ninja through the bushes. I cut across here, spot the Artie, he doesn't spot me. 430's camo is that good. And so I'm able to make an approach on him without him knowing I'm even here. Of course, I'm approaching him over a hill, which gives him time to begin aiming at me while I try and come over the top to get gun depression. Now our own Artie takes a shot there, probably saves my life, although he very nearly hit me. I am glad he took that shot though, because it made sure that 53-55 went down without taking me out first. Now, I did actually say at the start of the match I didn't get to do a whole lot of damage. 2,900 damage so far, that's not bad. It's just not what I should have got in a 430 considering the number of shots I took. I think I must have hit only half my shots, if that, in this match. It was really quite atrocious. And as a result, you know, from a match of this length where I've had the number of opportunities to get shots that I have, I would be expecting about 5 or 6k damage from this. This should have been a huge match. But it was for a Hardy, and it was for me spotting-wise. Unfortunately, I forgot the 4202 was up on the hilltop, and I think either he had Binox or the ST1 somehow lit me. Because I think I'd already been unspotted from the what was that? I'm terrible. What was that tank on the rails? The T-32. Sorry, I've been up a while. It's been a long day. My brain's a bit all over the place. Unfortunately, with me dead, it's now down to our puppies to carry this. I have faith in our Artie after his performance for the rest of the match. I don't have faith in these other puppies, so I'm just going to hit the time acceleration because it took these guys a while to figure out what to do. The IS-7 finally realised the ST-1 was also in cab with him and went to do something about it, while the 704 somehow managed to let the 4202 get around him, chase him down the hill, and kill him. How embarrassing. Well, that game was certainly something. Artie actually ended up having an excellent game. He ended up doing, I think, 7.2k damage or something. Some pretty ridiculously large amount you don't often see in Artie. He had an absolute riot of a time bombing those guys in mid, which of course was all coming off my spotting, so I ended up with about 8k spotting damage. He ended up with a little over 7k damage dealt. We were both very happy about it, and actually had a bit of a mutual appreciation society going on in a chat window for a while. Of course. But it was a frustrating match, just purely because of my gun not hitting anything it was aimed at. Probably one of the most infuriating things in this game is the feeling that you are playing, you know, not badly. You're not playing maybe to the best of your ability, but you're being gimped by the game mechanics. And no game mechanics are more gimpy than the RNG on accuracy. I could be aiming perfectly well at any given point on a tank and my shot will fly fucking miles away from where I aimed it. Even if I sit and wait for the aim to settle, you know, sometimes you just can't do anything about it. And I understand why it's there. You know, realistically, tank guns are not perfectly accurate. They do have a certain amount of dispersion over distance. And then you've got other things relating in, like the current atmospheric conditions, the quality of the shell and the powder, you know, how worn out the rifling in the barrel is, the quality and proper calibration of the gun sight, skill of the gunner, all this shit. And of course whether the tanks move, blah blah blah. There's a lot of stuff that goes into tank gunnery in real life, and so, you know, it's partly, I think, to cover that base, and mostly to stop people like me from being too good at the game. A lot of pubbies, oddly enough, often the worst players will complain about RNG and cry that it should be removed from the game. Well, go right ahead, because if you remove RNG from the game, it will mean the bottom probably 80 or 90% of the player base, which is to say, you know, everyone who's basically red or orange on my XVM config, will find the game unplayable because they're apparently so incredibly inept they can't hit things even without RNG. I mean, the shit I've seen, probably a lot of these people are playing with pings in excess of 500 milliseconds. Some of them are probably, you know, don't have the best reflexes, or, you know, some of them I know for a fact, you know, you do come across people who will say, I'm sorry that I'm not doing so well, I'm disabled or whatever. Happens, you know, everyone's got to have some fun. And unfortunately there's not a whole lot going in the realm of affordable gaming controllers for people who are missing fingers and or limbs. So I guess if any of you are looking for a sort of kickstart in the business world, there's something for you to do. But the problem is, if you take out RNG, those people are going to suffer, and people like me are going to profit, because suddenly people like me, who have passable reflexes, perhaps not the best, but good enough, and are decent with the aiming, are going to be unstoppable. I mean, you can imagine, particularly, I mean, I'm pretty good with the static shots, but if you imagine somebody with the reaction times of some of the better players who can juggle 3 or 4 different targets at once, which I can't do, it's not going to end well. Taking out RNG would be the death knell of this game, because instantly you'd lose the vast majority of your player base. It wouldn't be fun for them anymore, because people like me would just dominate them non-stop. And there would be really, I mean, you could argue that there would be more skill in it, because you would have to actually be able to click things, but I mean, I know what it's like to play with a shitty ping. I know what it's like to play on shitty hardware. Like the time when I was stuck on my laptop because my PC had died on me and I was playing with 5 frames a second, just because I had to get my World of Tanks fix. I know what that's like, and I know those people just want to play the game and, have some kind of enjoyment out of it, and I think it's fair that there is the RNG in there just to keep us on our toes and to stop them from getting their faces rolled. I just wish it was a little less brutal at times. But after that massive segue, to go back to the original point I made, this didn't feel like a great game to me. I was swearing, in TeamSpeak, swearing up a storm, complaining, oh, shit gun, fucking useless, can't hit a fucking thing, I've had gimpy RNG all day, I'm sick of this fucking game, I'm done, I quit after this, blah blah blah. I had a massive fucking rage fit in TeamSpeak, which probably would have been hilarious to listen to. And then I went to the post-game screen and actually found out I had got an enormous amount of spotting damage and all that goes with it, medals, experience, all that kind of fun shit. And my attitude changed pretty quick smart. That's one unfortunate thing actually about trying to play a scouting role. Because of the way things work, you can't actually tell when shots are going in off your spotting or when they're going in off somebody else's, and so quite often you'll think you've been spotting for the whole team only to find some fuckwit who was about 5 meters further forwards than you in a bush was actually the one spotting for your entire team, and you ended up getting absolutely nothing. I kind of... I know that the implementation of it would be very hard, but perhaps something that... for instance, the different colours over the target markers when a friendly tank shoots another friendly tank, or a platoon mate shoots a target, or you shoot a target, or whatever the fuck, or a platoon mate gets hit and an enemy gets hit. That kind of functionality, which is at the moment I think purely XVM, pretty sure the vanilla game doesn't have it. That kind of thing would actually be useful if you had perhaps a different colour which triggers when damage is spotted by you versus somebody else. But again, it would be very, very hard to implement, and I'm not even sure if it would be possible, but it would be nice. It would just be really, really nice to have some kind of visual representation of the fact that yes, you are actually spotting enemies, and yes, that damage is going in, and no, it's not the ELC parked next to you trying to steal all your spotting. But a man can dream. Until then, it's just basically guesswork and hoping for a pleasant surprise at the end of an otherwise frustrating match. I hope you enjoyed the video. As I said before, I now run optics pretty much exclusively on my mediums. There are still a few I haven't replaced events on yet, but I mean, you can see why in this match optics is the way to go. It's all about view range these days, and particularly on the higher tier mediums, which have very, very nice view ranges, optics are an absolute godsend. I wish you the best of luck in the field, and I'll see you on the next one.